A betrayed husband unveils his wife's infidelity and embarks on a masterful quest for revenge. Greetings, everyone. Prepare yourselves for fresh tales unfolding on this channel. Before we embark on this journey together, we invite you to share in the comments your location. What city or state are you tuning in from? I appreciate your support. Now, let us embark on this journey. Marcy Weston disembarked from the plane, her chin held high, radiating an air of confidence. She harbored no shame regarding her 6-week liaison in Colombia. What reason does she have to do so? She found herself thriving, sought after, yet constrained by her existence alongside Rick. Dr. Trey had stirred desires she had long kept hidden. Their affair was audacious, exhilarating, until Rick's enraged phone call fractured the fantasy. His furious outburst regarding her audacious infidelity had taken her by surprise, yet a part of her couldn't help but respect his newfound resolve. As the weeks unfolded, Trey's allure began to wane. As soon as he detected the fissures in her marriage, he transformed into a figure of control, cruelty, and derision. What had once seemed liberating transformed into a source of degradation. Yet Marcy steadfastly denied any sense of regret. She bore his jibes with a sense of pride. Yet the relationship concluded in a frigid manner, as Trey switched seats to distance himself from her during the flight back. In the midst of it all, Penny, a colleague caught in her own web of secrets, disclosed that Rick had issued a threat to unveil her indiscretions. Josh, the husband of Penny, was not a man celebrated for his capacity to forgive. True to form, a process server intercepted Penny with divorce papers the moment they touched down on U.S. soil. Marcy's heart raced at the thought of divorce papers looming over her, yet a wave of relief washed over her when no one came to confront her. It validated her convictions. Rick found himself too frail to make his departure. She persuaded herself that he was there, wounded, yet unwavering, patiently anticipating her arrival. Following 6 weeks alongside Trey, she felt a strong desire to reclaim her power, envisioning Rick in a state of longing to win her back. Her confidence lay in ruins at the Ambassador Hotel. Anticipating Rick's arrival, she discovered the lobby devoid of any presence. Brushing aside a fleeting concern, she confidently approached the front desk. Then, one by one, her credit cards met with rejection. A wave of unease washed over me. With a strained smile, she insisted on another try, yet the clerk stood resolute. With a resolute heart, she brushed aside the murmurs that trailed her, confident that Rick held the answers she sought. Marcy's discomfort intensified as her attempt to reach Rick ended in silence. His number had been disconnected. A flicker of panic coursed through her as a man in a suit drew near, extending a manila envelope toward her. Rick wished for you to receive this. Silence surrounds the matter, devoid of legal discourse or expressions of regret, leaving only the enigmatic void. With a swift motion, she ripped it open, revealing a typed letter alongside a smaller, sealed envelope. As she perused the pages, A sense of disbelief constricted within her. Rick still held on to his resentment towards her. He had undergone a remarkable transformation. Chilling, wrathful, a stark contrast to the indifferent figure she had previously overlooked. Her pulse raced as she took in every word. Yet one phrase resonated above the rest. You seemingly rationalized your behavior by asserting that I had a tumultuous liaison with Deidre during my time in Iraq. I did not do that. Our solitary lapse never ventured into the realm of intimacy. He recounted the act of soothing a distressed companion, subsequently drawing a parallel to her meticulously orchestrated connections. She recalled the self-satisfied rationale she had employed each time guilt threatened to surface. With her lips pressed firmly together, she compelled herself to continue reading. I am aware that you too engaged in an affair during my time in Korea. I heard whispers of your peculiar parking habits at the Red Roof Inn. You never acknowledged it. Yet we both understand the truth of what transpired. Marcy's face flushed with anger. That belonged to a bygone era. What prompts the discussion at this moment? They had endured that moment. She believed she had been subtle, or so she imagined. Indeed, it had been an exhilarating experience with the anesthesiologist who had taken on the night shift. Indeed, it concluded the instant Rick made his return. Yet, it ought to be of no consequence at this moment. She pressed on. Your letter suggests that we exist in a relationship where one partner acts independently, without the need for mutual consent. I suppose that a reversal of roles is only just. Marcy felt her heart pounding in her chest. Reversal. Rick was looming over a significant threat. With each passing paragraph, the truth became increasingly undeniable. He had parted with the house, emptied his bank accounts, terminated his phone plan, and was on the brink of disappearing into the horizon on a prolonged RV adventure. She immersed herself in the pages, oblivious to the inquisitive stares of those who walked by. It was then that she unearthed the more profound terror. I have conveyed the details of your extracurricular activities to HR at the hospital. A contract awaits their signature, ensuring the termination of both you and your esteemed doctor, Trey. All to prevent me from pursuing legal action for their failure to uphold the morality clause. Monday morning promises to be rather eventful for you. Marcy felt her heart skip a beat. Once, she had traversed those hospital corridors with a sense of pride, recognized as a proficient, albeit straightforward, nurse. The loss of that job, her very sense of self, would shatter her completely. Yet, that was precisely what Rick desired. Our children received copies of your photos and videos with Trey, his letter conveyed. I revealed the truth to them. I am embarking on an extended journey. They implored me to refrain from severing our connection. Yet I declared that I would reach out as frequently as you reached out to me. Not a single time. His mocking tone echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the man she had once deemed weak. And then came the final blow. I have no intention of ending our marriage. If you seek to depart, submit a request for abandonment. I shall not dispute. I have already gathered what I require. The dwelling, the vehicles, our wealth. the admiration of the children. Relish the open relationship you imposed upon me. Ah, and I have bestowed upon you one final offering. A Visa gift card valued at $500. That is the entirety of the plastic remaining in your possession. Rick. Her hands quivered with uncertainty, anger, shame, and dread coiled tightly within her abdomen. With a swift motion, she thrust the letter back into its envelope, turning her back on the feeble offering. Though tears loomed on the brink, her pride stood resolute, refusing to yield. With her chin held high and her breath trembling, she uttered a curse upon Rick's name. He embodied the essence of villainy. He had shattered it all. Marcy stood tall, strode purposefully to the front desk, and discreetly tucked the envelope beneath her purse. With a sharp snap of her fingers, she asserted, "I require a room. My husband has put me in a difficult situation, yet I am prepared to settle the matter with cash if needed." The clerk paused, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. "We do accept cash, ma'am. However, a deposit and a valid ID are necessary." Her stomach knotted with tension. What was the extent of her possession? As she rummaged through her purse, her fingers brushed against a meager stash of just under $100, a sum woefully insufficient. With determination etched on her face, she ripped open Rick's smaller envelope and extracted the $500 gift card. She summoned a smile. "Give this a go." If Rick spoke honestly, it might encompass a night or two. With a rhythmic tap of her foot, she lingered in anticipation. "The card has been processed." Relieved yet simmering with anger, she settled the bill for just one night. Room 1010, Ms. Weston awaits. Delight in your time here. The clerk exhibited a polite demeanor, yet an undercurrent of condescension lingered in the air. Or was it merely a manifestation of paranoia? With a swift motion, she seized the keycard, gestured to the bellhop, and marched away with determination. Rage coursed through her veins, directed at Rick, at the degradation, at the rapid disintegration of her once flawless existence. The bellhop trailed her luggage cart behind her, the air thick with an uncomfortable silence. As she pressed the elevator button, her eyes flicked to her phone, a silent hope that Rick would call, igniting a desire to unleash her fury, to demand answers, or, at the very least, to verbally dismantle him piece by piece. Yet his number had vanished, disconnected, a quiet testament to the fact that he had severed all connections. The elevator door glided open. She entered, the bellhop trailing behind, the letter searing in her purse like a mark of disgrace. In the solitude of her hotel room, Marcy walked back and forth, grappling with the chaos of her thoughts. The suitcase rested beside the bed, while the city lights danced in a flickering display beyond the towering windows. Yet all she beheld was her own visage, a woman coming apart at the seams. She settled onto the bed, reflecting on the instant she decided on Trey. She had been convinced that Rick would remain by her side forever. Trey's confidence radiated, his soft-spoken compliments weaving a tapestry of unfulfilled potential, suggesting she was far too vibrant for a mundane marriage. She had embraced his attention, convinced that Rick was lacking in courage, a man who would patiently await her return, regardless of the circumstances. How brazen she had been, flaunting her affair, chuckling about the sense of freedom she felt from her aging husband. As Rick's furious call pierced through the air, she couldn't help but smirk, certain that he would soon find his composure. He consistently did. At that moment, she realized the extent to which her pride had compelled him to take action. A glimmer of remorse emerged, yet fury blazed more fiercely. She had to summon her strength and resist. She found herself without a home, devoid of any money, yet she was far from a helpless victim. After a restless night, Marcy stirred from her slumber, infused with a fresh determination. She reached out to the bank. Surely, this must be an error. However, upon revealing her identity, she received a chilling, businesslike response. "Dear Mom, Mr. Rick Weston has successfully closed all joint accounts, exercising his authority through a valid power of attorney. Further details cannot be disclosed. It would be advisable to reach out to him directly." She ended the call, seething, her knuckles pale with tension. She then reached out to her children, now grown and residing in distant states. She dialed her son's number, only to be met with his voicemail. Next, she tried her daughter, who had always shared a closer bond with Rick, but was greeted by the same silence of voicemail. Her message was brief and to the point. "I wish to have a conversation with you. The matter requires immediate attention. Please return my call." She chose not to bring up the debacle in a voicemail. Yet, a fragment of her intuition whispered that Rick had orchestrated their betrayal. She donned crisp slacks and a fitted blouse, her hair pinned neatly in place, before hailing a taxi that would take her directly to the hospital, should she manage to sever Rick's sabotage at its origin. Perhaps the HR department would regard him as nothing more than a resentful partner weaving falsehoods. Ultimately, she had garnered the admiration of her department head. She garnered a reputation as an exceptional, albeit candid, nurse manager. Her skill and experience were essential to their needs. Let them attempt to sully her reputation. She would battle fiercely and relentlessly. She made her entrance just before the lunch hour, brushing aside the inquisitive glances of her colleagues in the lobby. It seems the news is circulating. With determination, she strode into HR, anticipating a swift resolution. A woman with a stern expression stood behind the main desk, offering her a greeting. The nameplate bore the inscription, "Miss Washington, HR Manager." Marcy recalled the name from Rick's letter. Her stomach tightened with a sudden intensity. Miss Washington's gaze shot up with a chilling intensity. "Ah, Marcy Weston, your arrival has been anticipated." Her voice was sharp, a thread of disapproval woven into each syllable. Marcy straightened, reclaiming her posture. "I wish to address the absurd assertions that my husband has seemingly put forth. Am unsure of the contents he shared." but he did send us some explicit images. Miss Weston, images and declarations from a private investigator. He further issued a warning of legal action for violating our morality clause should we persist in employing you or Dr. Trey Marshall. Marcy's lips quivered slightly. That is utterly unacceptable. He is merely a husband filled with resentment. The foundation in legal terms is rather tenuous. How audacious of you to delve into matters that are private. You did sign a code of conduct upon your hiring, did you not? Miss Washington raised an eyebrow. She revealed a folder, saying, "We have it here. The policy stipulates that employees in specific positions, particularly those who embody the hospital's image, may face termination for public scandals or immoral behavior that threatens to tarnish the institution's reputation." She gently tapped a line that had been marked in bright hue. "We possess a reason. This is nonsense," Marcy snapped, her heart racing with intensity. It was not a matter of public disgrace, but rather a private concern. Miss Washington's voice carried an icy calmness. The email your husband composed was remarkably detailed. The information was disseminated among numerous colleagues, medical professionals, charitable collaborators, and benefactors. The image is quite vivid. Whispers echo through the hospital corridors and spill out into the world beyond. Complaints have surfaced from staff regarding what they perceive as unethical behavior on your part, alongside concerns from donors who wish to distance themselves from any hint of scandal. Heat surged to Marcy's face. Not even in her darkest dreams had she envisioned Rick would take such drastic measures, broadcasting her humiliations throughout the city. "Is that all there is? So, you'll dismiss me, just like that?" Miss Washington pressed her lips together. "We are currently in the process of consulting with our legal advisors regarding the issue at hand. I am not here to engage in a discussion about the ethics of your private affairs, Miss Weston. However, the hospital's board believes it must safeguard itself against the possibility of a lawsuit and the ensuing public backlash." With a subtle motion, she glided an envelope across the desk. "Your suspension without pay is effective immediately and will remain in place until further notice." Marcy gazed in disbelief. She yearned to unleash the sharpest words she could conjure, yet a tempest of conflicting emotions knotted her tongue. With a swift motion, she seized the envelope and pivoted on her heel. As she walked away, Miss Washington shouted after her, "A security officer will accompany you to retrieve your personal belongings from your locker." A guard materialized at her side, a formidable figure whose face betrayed no emotion. With a determined stride, she advanced, her chin held high, acutely aware of the gaze of the staff upon her. The news had certainly traveled far and wide. Some individuals gazed with astonishment, while others murmured quietly in her absence. Marcy sensed the humiliation seep further into her being, igniting a fierce anger within her. She discovered Dr. Trey by the nurse's station, surrounded by a group of staff members. His visage was ashen, beads of perspiration forming on his brow. A handful of nurses who had once held him in high regard now regarded him with open disdain. He caught sight of Marcy and frowned deeply. Yet, Within his gaze lingered a trace of trepidation. "What on earth is happening?" Marcy insisted. Trey disengaged from the group, taking her arm gently to guide her away. "Your husband," Trey, with a venomous whisper, sent images and videos to HR. "He is utterly undermining my professional journey. I find myself in the midst of an investigation. This is utterly astonishing." Marcy wrenched her arm away. "My unstable spouse. You took great pleasure in belittling me with your petty antics in Colombia. Did you really think I desired to be splashed across email newsletters? I find myself on the brink of losing my job as well." He cast a fierce glare in her direction. "Please, don't place the blame on me. You were the one lamenting about your gentle husband, confiding that you essentially had the freedom to act as you pleased. Had I been aware of his serpentine nature, I would have kept my distance entirely." The elevator chimed softly, echoing down the corridor. They were approached by security. Trey tensed, ripping the stethoscope from around his neck, retreating like a trapped creature. He cursed softly to himself. "I find myself called to the realm of HR. It could very well be my demise." Marcy's lip curled in disdain. She harbored no compassion. She could still recall the way he had reveled in triumph when Rick first reached out, deriding Rick's perceived vulnerabilities and asserting that true men do not whimper. Behold him, now reduced to a pitiful whimper. She cast him a frigid look. "Relish the open relationship," she retorted, mirroring Rick's jibe. With a decisive turn, she walked away, leaving Trey to simmer in the aftermath of security's presence. Just as Marcy was about to step through the hospital door, a voice she recognized called out from behind her. She turned swiftly to find Leslie from next door, the very neighbor with whom Marcy had attempted to craft a clandestine swinger lifestyle unbeknownst to Rick. Leslie stood with her arms crossed, her expression a canvas of disappointment. "Ah, if it isn't the renowned globetrotter," Leslie remarked coolly, her gaze sweeping over Marcy's effortlessly chic ensemble. "I trust you have perused Rick's letter by this point." Marcy felt a flutter in her stomach. "What brings you to this place?" Vincent attended a routine checkup. "I decided to visit HR to submit some documents for a new part-time role I'm about to embark on. And would you believe it? Your visage graces every corner of the building, a constant reminder of your presence. Impossible to overlook." Marcy swallowed hard, her pride clashing violently with the sharp sting of humiliation as she found herself exposed in the midst of her unraveling. "I trust you are enjoying yourself immensely. Withhold your judgment. I understand that you and your husband have an interest in swinging, so let's not act as if we're above it all." Leslie's lips curled into a sardonic smile, a bitter laugh escaping her mouth. Engaging in the dance of connection, yet remaining true. One must recognize the distinction. Vincent and I lay bare all that we hold within. Truth and transparency reign supreme. You attempted to draw me into your secret affair with Trey, all while keeping it hidden from Rick. That is not the way it operates. You brought this upon yourself." Marcy snapped, her frustration palpable. Do not even think about lecturing me. You nourished my mind with your thoughts for months, showcasing your liberated way of living. And behold the impact it had on my marriage. Leslie gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Do not hold me accountable for the decisions you have made. Rick is a decent fellow. Had you engaged in a candid dialogue with him, the possibilities for an arrangement might have been limitless. Rather, you deceived, twisted the truth, and brought him to shame. I was utterly in the dark. You never shared your intentions with him. Marcy tightened her fists, a surge of determination coursing through her veins. You stand by him even after he has shattered my whole existence. He orchestrated the sale of my house, absconded with my funds, and sowed discord among my acquaintances. He is the true embodiment of monstrosity in this tale. Leslie's eyes took on a steely resolve. You shaped him into who he is now. Every action carries its weight. Marcy, during our dinner, I conveyed this to him. He had no desire to share a bed with me, just so you know. He regarded the notion with a sense of revulsion, particularly in light of your attempts to ensnare us in your web of deceit. Heat surged through Marcy's cheeks. She yearned to unleash a cutting remark, yet the phrases eluded her grasp. At last, she succeeded in curling her lip in disdain. Convey my wishes for him to find joy in that less-than-ideal RV life. Feel free to retain your self-righteous drivel. With a swift turn on her heel, she strode away, disregarding the ascending steps behind her. As Marcy departed from the hospital, ominous clouds gathered overhead, and the rain cascaded down, mirroring her somber spirit. She found herself suspended, with the looming possibility of termination ahead. Her credit cards had been canceled. The dwelling she had once cherished as her own was now in the hands of a youthful couple. She envisioned the backyard deck, a place where her dreams of freedom had once taken flight. At last, it belonged to them. She retrieved her phone and reached out to 2 former colleagues for assistance. One, with a hint of reluctance, noted that Rick had provided some evidence. The other remained silent, offering no response. Their dismissal ignited a fire within her. What does it matter if she had wandered off the path? Marriages have endured far greater trials. How could they possibly judge her? With no options left, she found herself back at the Ambassador Hotel, compelled to make do with Rick's demeaning gift card. Within the confines of the taxi, she brooded silently. She needed to locate Rick. She reached out to former neighbors, even the real estate agent who had facilitated the sale of their home. Silence enveloped the room, as no one responded. He had obliterated every remnant of his existence. That night, Marcy remained in her hotel room, gazing at the city lights that seemed to taunt her with their ordinary brilliance. She glanced at her phone. Silence reigns, devoid of calls, texts, or any semblance of support. Yet her inbox brimmed with an abundance of messages. With a boldness that surprised her, she glanced at the screen and discovered forwarded emails from Rick, accompanied by photos of herself in bed with Trey. A knot of revulsion coiled within her abdomen. The subject line pierced through the air with an unexpected sharpness. The new chapter of my wife's life. Physicians devoid of ethics. Exploring the dynamics of open relationships. Only her side. He had dispatched them to friends, family, and even those he knew from church. Fury coursed through her veins. She walked back and forth, envisioning retribution, contemplating legal action, pulling him into the courtroom. Yet, could it truly be considered slander if the photographs were authentic? He held the advantage. She fell onto the bed, her fingers clenching the sheets as anger coursed through her. What could have compelled him to act in such a manner? He had transformed their intimate turmoil into a sensational scandal. Had he only approached it with a sense of discretion, there was potential for redemption. Rather, he was dismantling her existence, fragment by fragment. Yet, a quiet whisper within her suggested that she was the one who had ignited this spark. In an instant, she dispelled that notion. The dawn unveiled a glimmer of promise. Her daughter returned her call, leaving a voicemail that felt achingly formal. "Mother, I have just received your message. I find myself at a loss for words. My father revealed it all to me. We beheld the photographs. He exhibited a meticulous nature. My heart feels heavy. Mom, my concerns for him weigh heavily on my mind as well. He carries the weight of pain and resentment. He mentioned that he will be departing for a time. I care for you deeply. Yet I find myself unable to stand by your actions. I wish to remain uninvolved in the conflict between you and Dad. Perhaps there will come a day when we can converse. But for now, I require some time. I apologize." Marcy shut her eyes, tears on the verge of spilling. Her very own daughter had cast judgment upon her. Once more, her call went unanswered, leaving only a voicemail in its wake. She endeavored to understand her son. Silence prevails. Desperation seeped into her voice as she recorded her messages. "Kindly allow me the opportunity to elaborate. It appears different than it truly is." Yet she understood that Rick had shaped the story to his advantage. For hours, she immersed herself in the search for lawyers, driven by the desire to take legal action against Rick. Yet, every firm turned her away. One was straightforward. If the evidence holds true, then it cannot be deemed defamation. Without financial resources, one cannot contest the sale of assets. She ended the call with a string of curses. She possessed naught. Without employment, without possessions, without assistance. For the first time, genuine desperation washed over me. On that peculiar afternoon, an unusual email materialized. Her heart leaped. "Is that you?" "Rick." She unsealed it, her eyes darting over the contents with haste. "Marcy, you may be overlooking my words, yet I shall make my attempt regardless. I have created this temporary email, so please refrain from attempting to track me. I will be shutting it down shortly. Now, You understand the sensation of having your existence contorted without your consent. This system was brought into existence by you. I have placed some of your belongings in a storage unit, the address of which is provided below. Merely an assortment of trinkets, aged correspondence, devoid of any real worth. The unlocking will take place on Saturday at 8 a.m. until midday. Once that moment passes, everything fades away. I won't be there, so don't count on it. My journey has already begun. Imagine I find myself several states distant. The expanse of the open road unfolds in breathtaking beauty. This appears to be my final act of generosity. I find myself compelled to act, driven by the remnants of affection I once held for you, aware that you may yearn for some tokens from days gone by. Perhaps not. Marcy felt a tightness in her chest. He was methodically removing her presence from their existence. Yet, there existed a perverse form of politeness within it. He offered her the chance to rescue a collection of remnants. With a surge of anger, she crafted a fiery response, only to watch in frustration as the email returned with an error message. The address was no longer active. Curse him. At 7:45 in the morning, on that Saturday, Marcy found herself in a forsaken alley lined with grimy storage units, the sky above cloaked in a somber gray. Another night had slipped away in the hotel, her gift card dwindling with each passing moment. She had scarcely touched her food, saving the meager remnants for her stay. Fatigue clung to her like a heavy shroud. The heavy metal door of the specified unit was secured with a padlock. She cast a fleeting look at her phone. 7:58 in the morning. Would Rick honor his promise? Just as expected, a local manager strolled past, absent-mindedly toying with a set of keys. "Are you Marcy Weston?" he inquired with an air of disinterest. She inclined her head in agreement. With a swift motion, he released the padlock and let it roll away. "It was suggested that I unveil it at 8, and should you depart, I'll secure it once more by noon." As she crossed the threshold, her gaze acclimated to the soft shadows that enveloped the space. Before her stood a neat row of 4 or 5 boxes, each adorned with Rick's unmistakable handwriting, trinkets, assorted items, cherished mementos, correspondence, and, amusingly, Marcy's little pleasures. She pried open the flaps, sifting through their contents with purpose. She fell to her knees, searching through the chaos, her emotions a tempest within her. She felt oddly vulnerable, as though Rick were still pulling the strings of her embarrassment. She stumbled across a faded photograph of the two of them, beaming with joy during a ski trip from 20 years ago. In that moment captured, he grasped her hand, his eyes shimmering with affection. A sharp wave of nostalgia pierced her, swiftly followed by the acrid flavor of how it all had concluded. With a surge of frustration, she flung the picture away from her. Time dragged on, slow and relentless. She found herself adrift, uncertain of what she sought, perhaps a whisper of reassurance that Rick still held her in his thoughts. Yet, each object stood as a mere remnant of a union that had once thrived. He had meticulously arranged these boxes to reveal to her precisely what she had discarded. By 9:30, she had carefully arranged the belongings she genuinely cherished, primarily personal keepsakes that held no monetary value, yet were overflowing with emotional significance. She contemplated abandoning the old love letters, yet an inexplicable urge compelled her to gather them into a bag. She was determined that he wouldn't be the sole keeper of the entire tale. With a determined effort, she heaved the boxes onto the sidewalk, her eyes scanning the street for a taxi to hail. She was resolute in her quest to preserve the remnants of her identity. Suddenly, a voice emerged from behind her. As an older woman alighted from a car, her face marked by a gentle, courteous worry. "Greetings, Marcy. I am Emily Wellman. My husband and I have acquired your house." From Rick, Marcy's breath hitched. She recalled the words penned by Rick. Rod and Emily Wellman were a young couple, their names echoing with the promise of new beginnings. The woman appeared older than Marcy had anticipated, perhaps burdened by the strains of an expanding family. She offered a tentative nod. "Indeed. I am Marcy. Apologies for the unexpected news. But Rick informed us about this storage unit, suggesting we might consider retrieving a few remaining items included in the sale. He mentioned that we might collaborate with you." Emily hesitated, a sense of discomfort washing over me. "I simply wish to convey that we seek no conflict. We were taken aback by the sale of your home under such unexpected circumstances." Marcy's expression twisted with fury. "My sanctuary. Indeed, it is complete. Congratulations on reaping the rewards of my husband's small act of retribution." Sympathy welled up in Emily's eyes. "I hesitate to intrude. Yet it's clear that you are navigating a challenging time. Rest assured, the transaction was conducted within the bounds of the law. I understand this may not bring you solace. Yet Rick mentioned that you were seeking a new beginning. It seems that statement wasn't completely accurate." Marcy nearly let out a bitter laugh. "It seems he has become quite the master of deception. I trust you will appreciate the elegance of the hardwood floors and the charm of the brand-new deck that I invested in." Emily shifted with a hint of discomfort. "If you wish, we could arrange for you to visit at some point. If you have any memories in that house you'd like to stop." Marcy snapped, tears burning her eyes. "I have no use for sympathy. Claim the house. Adorn it in any way that pleases your imagination. I have reached a point of indifference." Emily's expression dimmed. With a subtle nod, she took a step back. "I sincerely apologize for this occurrence." Indeed, she withdrew to her car, abandoning Marcy on the curb, her boxes in tow, shoulders trembling with unspoken rage. In the solitude of her hotel room, with boxes stacked in the corner like forgotten memories, Marcy sank into a chair and began to sift through the faded letters from Rick. A single note captured her attention, a handwritten draft she had composed following a bitter argument from years past. A heated debate arose regarding trust and loyalty when she began to suspect him of an affair during his time in the Middle East. Within its pages, she had unleashed her frustrations, her doubts, her bubbling resentment. She had never summoned the courage to present it to him. Now, in a twist of fate, all that she had cautioned against in that letter had come full circle, returning to confront her. Rick, should you ever betray my trust, you will come to deeply regret it. Betrayal is not something I take lightly. I shall shatter the illusions that hold us captive. She released the paper, allowing it to drift from her grasp. The pride woven into that draft still pricked at her, even in this moment. She had never imagined herself as the one to betray, nor could she fathom that the gentle, accommodating Rick would be the harbinger of utter ruin. The day had finally come. She was unable to extend her time at the Ambassador. The front desk conveyed to her that her gift card was on the verge of depletion. She found herself without the funds for a prolonged visit. She came to the understanding that her options were limited. She would either need to seek out a more affordable motel or reach out to a friend for a place to stay. Yet, she found herself devoid of any true companions. In a tumultuous clash, pride battled against the gnawing grip of desperation. Yet, in the end, desperation triumphed. She found herself at a shabby motel on the fringes of the city, the kind of establishment that offered rooms by the week, musty atmosphere, deteriorating wallpaper, sputtering fluorescent illumination. She gazed into the fractured mirror, struggling to identify the stranger staring back at her. Shadows of darkness framed her eyes. Her hair, once a beacon of salon perfection, now lacked its former luster, and the business slacks she wore were remnants from days past. She descended onto a weary mattress, its springs groaning under her weight. A cockroach darted across the nightstand, prompting her to close her eyes in revulsion. How had it arrived at this point? The sound of her phone pierced the silence. With a swift motion, she seized it, her heart racing. Could it have been Rick? However, that is not the case. A number concealed from view. With a moment's pause, she finally responded. "Greetings." A self-satisfied voice emerged. "Dr. Trey, victory is yours. Marcy." They dismissed me, effectively casting me out and tarnishing my reputation with half the hospitals in the region. My wife departed as well, so I appreciate that. Her laughter was tinged with bitterness. Did I emerge victorious? Behold me, ensconced within a roach motel. Rick seized it all and set my world ablaze. Well, that's what you get for getting involved with a jerk like me, Trey said, the words dripping with disdain. You are hardly without your own flaws. In the future, choose a dalliance that won't provoke your partner into unleashing chaos upon the professional lives of all involved. She yearned to unleash her fury upon him, yet all that emerged was a profound void. Following a brief pause, Trey ended the call. She flung the phone away with a dismissive gesture. The final flicker of thrill she had once experienced with Trey had now been overshadowed by a profound disdain. In a fleeting moment of spite, Marcy resolved to embark on one final audacious act. She retained the phone number of a former comrade of Rick's from his military days, a man by the name of Ferris. She remembered how Rick would often regale Ferris with tales of his adventures on the road. Perhaps Ferris held the key to Rick's location. Should anyone possess that knowledge? With quivering fingers, she pressed the numbers. Ferris answered the call. "Greetings." Her voice held a certain tension. "Ferris, this is Marcy Weston speaking. He let out a heavy sigh. "Indeed, Marcy. Rick advised me against engaging in conversation with you." Her nerves ignited. "Do not even think about ending this call. I am aware that Rick is spinning tales for you. Reveal his location to me, or else. I'm sorry. I can't help you," Ferris said with unwavering resolve. "Rick has endured more than his fair share. If you wish to mend your situation, take it upon yourself to do so." He requested some distance. "I am presenting it to him." And then he turned it off. Rage surged within her. With a swift motion, she tossed the phone onto the bed. She found herself alone in her search for Rick, with no one willing to lend a hand. The whole world conspired to protect him, granting him the freedom to wander, while she remained abandoned to decay. Time dragged on. A week slipped away. Then another followed. Her suspension from the hospital evolved into an official termination. A letter found its way to the motel. "Your employment is terminated for cause, in accordance with the violation of the Code of Conduct, effective immediately." The whispers of her scandal wove their way through the local healthcare network. She discovered no doors ajar. In the meantime, the funds from Rick's embarrassing gift card had vanished. She had no choice but to part with her remaining jewelry, surrendering it for a mere fraction of its true value. She had always taken pride in her ability to maintain control, yet now she found herself slipping from that last illusion. In the stillness of the night, she found herself in the dimly lit motel room, poring over Rick's typed letter that had set everything in motion. "I have no intention of ending our marriage. Divorces hold no significance for me, and the prospect of remarriage is not in my plans. I have acquired all that I require. If you wish to exit, you shall handle the paperwork. As I traverse the open road, I relish the sweet taste of freedom that surrounds me. Only once, if it's not too much trouble." Each instance pierced her with a profound cruelty. He had turned her own words against her. "Just once, if you please." Recalling how she had nonchalantly shared the details of her fling, treating it as though it were nothing of consequence. She felt a chill as she understood that his vengeance extended beyond the tangible, delving deep into the realm of the mind. A gradual, overwhelming annihilation. She remembered the moment she had shared with him, long ago, her yearning for freedom and adventure. He had replied with a gift of solitude and desolation. With no other options available, Marcy finally summoned the icy resolve to reach out to a lawyer regarding her divorce from Rick due to his abandonment. Perhaps it was the sole route remaining to restore a fragment of dignity. she sought a clearer understanding of the law. Perhaps she might consider charging him with the misuse of the power of attorney. The lawyer informed her that the battle ahead would be a challenging one. Rick had meticulously executed documents, ensuring disclaimers adorned every page, and had chronicled each real estate transfer with flawless signatures. The funds had vanished, presumably into accounts that could not be traced. Rick's letter revealed that he had utilized her own signature from the original power of attorney, a document she had willingly endorsed. The lawyer articulated it clearly. Litigation is an option, yet it demands a substantial reserve of resources. The result remains uncertain. Marcy gazed vacantly at the legal estimates. Without the necessary funds, everything circled back to Rick's last taunting invitation. She faced the choice of filing for divorce or continuing in a marriage that existed only in name. A woman devoid of a husband, stripped of assets, and bereft of hope. As she stepped out of the office, a sense of numbness enveloped her. Her dreams of battling Rick in the courtroom had crumbled beneath the heavy burden of practicality. She navigated the worn, second-hand vehicle she had acquired with funds from the pawn shop back to the motel. The sky loomed, thick with the promise of rain. Heavy clouds loomed overhead, a portent of unending despair. She positioned herself behind the wheel, the engine softly ticking in the stillness. For a fleeting moment, tears cascaded down her cheeks, unrestrained and relentless. Once, she had walked with an air of unwavering confidence, but now she found herself weeping in a motel parking lot, the odor of stale cigarettes wafting through a shattered window. Finally summoning the strength to move, she unlocked the door to her motel room and stumbled inside, flinging her bag onto the wobbly table. She regarded the boxes from the storage unit, meticulously arranged in the corner. Crinkled love letters cascaded from the summit, taunting her. With a fierce determination, she struck the table with her fist, a fire of anger igniting within her. "Rick Weston," she spat through gritted teeth, "you wretched scoundrel." Even as her voice quivered, she found herself haunted by the memory of that phone call had placed weeks prior, his tone laced with raw emotion, betrayal, and pain. In a way that seemed almost perverse, she had shaped him into what he had become. She had shattered his pride, paraded her infidelity, and abandoned him in a state of utter worthlessness. In response, the gentleman transformed into a figure of monstrosity, eclipsing her arrogance with a vengeance that was even more merciless. With a final, somber resolve, she unlocked her phone and navigated to the photo gallery, a glimpse of her first romance. The clandestine meeting at the Red Roof Inn captured her attention. She gazed at the youthful reflection of herself, a smirk playing on her lips, beside a faceless companion from a fleeting moment. With a decisive tap, she pressed delete, believing that perhaps, in erasing that memory, she could alleviate the weight she carried. Yet it did not. Her phone remained a repository of countless images from her life, snapshots that Rick had already appropriated and turned against her in a public arena. Victory was his. That knowledge coursed through her like shards of glass in her veins. She found herself with only the scant belongings from the storage unit, a sullied reputation, and no safety net to catch her fall. The relentless tide of Rick's vengeance had engulfed her, as darkness enveloped the world once again. The city transformed into a blur of vibrant neon lights and the faint glow of far-off headlights. Marcy curled up on the bed, clutching her knees, allowing herself to savor the unfiltered bitterness of her decline. Had she chosen kindness, refrained from displaying her arrogance, and approached the idea of an open marriage with honesty, perhaps the outcome would have been altered. Had she not dismissed Rick's furious calls, perhaps he would not have resorted to such drastic measures. She despised him, yet a fragment of her being acknowledged that the roots of his animosity had been sown by her own actions. Thus, the veil of invincibility that shrouded Marcy Weston was finally lifted. In the aftermath of her victorious laughter that once filled Trey's hotel bed, she now found herself haunted by the relentless drip of a leaky faucet in a modest motel. Within that cramped room, heavy with the scent of stale cigarettes, she confronted the harsh reality at last. Her arrogance had awakened Rick's wrath, and to her astonishment, he had revealed himself to be a far more sinister villain than she could have ever envisioned. With the final bitter laugh trapped in her throat, Marcy gazed into the abyss, tormented by her own thoughts, coming to the painful realization that a single act of reckless betrayal can unleash a tempest of repercussions from which there is no refuge.